What up, what up? This is Coach Liebs, and welcome to episode 30 of Coach Talk. Monday, October 22nd, coming off a huge win last Friday night. We were able to beat DePaul Catholic 59-28. Dominating performance by our offensive line and our running backs. We rushed for 544 yards and 8 touchdowns. It was really unlike anything I've ever seen, and it's funny because a lot of the guys on the offensive line kind of been teasing me in practice for a while, saying, "Coach, when are we going to get a shout out on Coach Talk? When are we going to get a shout out on Sideline Hustle?" And I kept telling the guys, like, "Hey, listen, when you earn it, when you guys are playing well enough to deserve it, I'll shout you guys out." And going into this game, people had DePaul Catholic ranked as either the number 1 or number 2 team in the state, and the narrative around us, coming off a 2-8 season, was kind of like, same old Bosco, finding a way not to win close games, and their time is kind of up here. And then we come down to DePaul Catholic, heavy underdogs, and kind of put a whooping on them, and it started up front with the offensive line. So I just got to say, shout out to them boys. Shout out to the Don Bosco offensive line. They played their butts off. They've been working really hard, and it's an interesting group to kind of talk about for a second, guys, where we've got 5 new starters. Last year, Bosco had 5 seniors on the offensive line, 4 or 5, I think maybe all 5 of them were Division I prospects, really talented group. They all graduated, so now you're bringing back 5 guys that have never played varsity minutes before, never played together before, and of all positions on the field, other than maybe quarterbacks to receivers, like any single position group, probably, chemistry is most important with the offensive line, and it's taken them a while to play together, not to mention, and I guess this is something I can kind of talk about now because it's pretty common knowledge, but not to mention their offensive line coach up and really left them and quit on them mid-season, and we had to make a coaching change, and we moved our offensive coordinator to offensive line coach, and it's been a smooth transition thus far, and they've just continued to work hard and continue to get better. I think that when I first got here in the summer, our offensive line, wasn't very tough. I don't think they understood what it meant to really push their limits and push themselves past where they're comfortable and really become ass kickers, and they've done that now. I think that they've been pushed as much, probably more than any position on this team. We've been riding them since June, trying to make them tougher and trying to get them to work harder. And I think that they really come into their own now towards the end of the season. So credit to the kids, credit to their work ethic, their persistence, and their toughness, and from top to bottom on the entire team. Our defense played well. Offensively, as for the receivers, honestly, we didn't have to do much. We had one kid, one of our slot receivers, had a huge third down conversion in the red zone on 3rd and 9. He gained 11 yards. That was probably the biggest play for us at receiver in the game. But we made plays when the ball was thrown to us, and otherwise we blocked our butts off. I'm proud of the way the receivers blocked downfield and the selflessness they showed all game in a game where we only threw it, I think, like 11 times. And we ran it, probably 40, 50 times. There was only, really 2 receivers that played way more than anyone else. We had a kid who usually plays 30, 40 snaps, only played 6 snaps just because we didn't mix up personnel as much. We were basically in a 2 tight end set or a kind of 3-by-1 with a tight end set, and kind of limited our personnel groups because the run game was working. We didn't have to switch too much up. But also want to shout out, our coaching staff. I think Coach Teal and the coordinators did a great job changing up practice last week. I think we came off, that big loss against St. Joe's, feeling like we needed a spark. We needed something to reinvigorate the team, and add some more competition in practice. So we changed up the entire structure of the way we practiced last week and added in way less scout team periods and way more competition periods against, Don Bosco ones versus ones. And I think that helped us a lot. I think that we came out fast. We came out flying. We scored on the first drive of the game. We got a stop on the first drive of the game on defense. I think it didn't take as much for us to get used to the game speed come Friday night. And I think a big reason for that is that we competed at game speed, more during this week than we normally did, and worried less about, is this a specific look we're going to see, and worried more about, getting the competitiveness up and pushing kids to work harder and continue to push their limits. And then I think lastly, a win like this, first of all, it's just a huge win for the program overall, where, coming off a 2-8 season, coming off 2 big losses in state to St. Joe's and St. Peter's, and then Bergen before that. So I think it's a huge win for our program, just to kind of change the narrative. And now everyone's looking at us. We knew we had the 2 best running backs in the state, and they finally had a game where they completely took over, and they were unstoppable. I mean, the offensive line's performance was great, but these 2 kids, they broke tackles, more tackles than I've seen them break all year. They played so hard. We did a lot of wildcat where you got both of them in the backfield playing quarterback and running back. I don't know. It's hard to defend, and DePaul's linebackers had trouble fitting their gaps, especially when we had 2 tight ends on the field. So it was really beneficial to us. But it's also a testament, I think, just to the way these kids have responded all summer. Like, it's a young team. We have a huge junior class, not a lot of seniors, a lot of kids playing for the first time. And our goal this entire summer, since the day I got here, since the day all this started, was just to continue to push their limits and continue to push the kids to work harder. And whenever they get uncomfortable, find a way to give a little bit more and make that line of comfort, the amount of uncomfortableness that you can handle, keep pushing that day by day. And kind of what we've been preaching to them all year is that if we keep doing that, eventually our breaking point will be higher than the opponent's. Eventually, we'll continue to punch someone in the mouth, and they're going to break before we do. And that'll happen at the most crucial moment. And I think in this season, that's kind of happened now. I don't think that we had really pushed ourselves or really overcome enough. I think that finally we've overcome enough adversity. We've become tough enough where our breaking point, at least last Friday, was much, much higher than DePaul's, and they broke way before we did. And, we were able to take advantage and capitalize and have a huge performance. I mean, I think we were down midway through the third quarter. It was like 21-17 or something midway through the third quarter. And then we scored like 40 points the last like 16 minutes or something crazy like that. It was a really wild game. It was, obviously as a receivers coach, I love to throw the ball, but my favorite thing to coach is run blocking. So it was great for me to see the guys finish on the perimeter and create big plays out there. Just a cool story. I'm proud of the kids. I think it's something that's worth a whole episode to kind of talk about and give a shout out to all the work that these guys have done. It's been truly like Don Bosco all of a sudden overnight went from the powerhouse to like the underdog this year. And I think they're trying to finally, starting to get that swagger back and that Don Bosco type mentality back. And hopefully we can just keep this going. Got a big game versus Paramus Catholic, playing, Sideline Hustle partner, Gary Nova, who has obviously been a big part of the Sideline Hustle from day one and, one of the biggest contributors and guys who have helped me. So it'll be a cool little Sideline Hustle rivalry playing Paramus Catholic. They've struggled thus far, but they have a ton of talent. And, it's a game that we got to win because there's a lot now where if we win this game, I believe we'll secure a first-round bye and a home playoff game in the second round. So that'd be huge for us. And the kids haven't had a bye week all year, so it'd be nice for them to have a week off and have some time to relax, and then we can get after it. This week, Sideline Hustle-wise, have had a bunch of really cool developments with some of these bigger companies. SeatGeek reached out to us, Cutter Sports, Nike still, VaynerMedia with Gary Vaynerchuk and them. Like a couple of really cool companies that we're talking to behind the scenes, and I think you guys will hear some big-time developments from some sort of partnership agreement or something along those lines that will happen with one of those companies. That's kind of where my mind is at. But we're gonna have another wide receiver challenge this week, a Cutter's Glove giveaway, and this week it's gonna be sending your best press releases. If you look at the latest post with Devontae Adams on Instagram and Twitter, the 3 release commandments I kind of talk about there are attack short arm, which means that you're attacking an area, 1 to 2 yards inside of him to try and move him there. You're not just aiming right at the guy. That's not going to move him, but aim at an area 1 to 2 yards inside of him, get him to jump inside so you can work back out. So attack short arm, eat up space, and patient but sudden. Those are the 3 release commandments I kind of talked about today. I'll have a full post on the contest tomorrow, but I kind of want the press release winners to follow those commandments. Attack short arm, eat up space, and patient but sudden. And send in your best releases to us on Instagram and Twitter, and we will have the winners up on the Instagram story next week, and you guys can vote. So that's all I got. Just recapping the weekend. Should be a great week of content. Got a lot of really cool videos planned and breakdowns from the NFL weekend, and obviously with the podcast as well, I have a lot of cool topics for Coach Talk. Trying to get Coach Friedgen on as a guest for one of these little 10-minute episodes this week, and hopefully get Gary Nova on before we play him on Friday night as well. So that's it. Episode 30 of Coach Talk. This is Coach Liebs. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.